Today, let's try something different. Let's dive in, well, not so much dive, maybe just test the waters. Dip the big toe in, see how it feels. Might be too hot. I hate water that's too hot. What was I saying? Oh, right. The New York City subway sucks, redundancy is for losers, and we're stuck with a loser subway system. The following are the rantings of a Gen X curmudgeon and should not be misconstrued as knowledgeable guidance. Opinions contained herein are solely those of said curmudgeon and are not transit policy, objectives, nor suggestions. Do not expect to learn anything from this video. The water might not be hot, but my take sure is. No going back now. Let's start with how I came to this absolutely factual opinion fact. A lot of you already know I keep up with the current events in Russia and Ukraine right now, and while perusing my Twitter feed, I came across an amazing thread by Jack Watling explaining why Russian Soviet-era weapon systems seem to perform better on paper than in practice, and it was like he was describing the MTA. I'll extrapolate later, but let's begin with what Jack said. Mr. Watling cites the Soviet-era Mi-24 attack helicopter as an example. Some years back, those helicopters were deployed to a NATO operation in Afghanistan. During routine maintenance, cracked bolts were found in the tail rotor of one Mi-24. U.S. officers freaked out and tried to ground all Mi-24s because they saw this as a faulty design, and so it was a flight safety risk. And for NATO aircraft, this would be a problem. But the Mi-24 crews explained that this was normal for Soviet weapon systems. Soviets knew their manufacturing quality control was bad, so designers just shrugged and built in redundancy. The Mi-24 and its later iterations actually worked really well though for their design purpose. For a while. But here's where the rubber meets the road, or the rotor meets the air. The train meets the track. This is where when it comes time to put new technology on an old platform like the Mi-24 or the New York City subway system, workarounds like redundancy stop working well. Redundancy and precision are opposites. They can and do coexist within the same system, but one is always sacrificed to the other. I think some of you have already guessed where I'm going with this, but this hot take is about to boil, so here we go. 3 separate New York City subway systems used to compete with one another, the IRT, the BMT, and the IND. On June 1st, 1940, all 3 systems were consolidated, and with that consolidation of 3 competing systems came, you guessed it, lots of transit redundancy. I mean, it was a mess. For example, the IRT lines, the numbered lines that is, had narrower subway cars than the IND and BMT lines, all the lettered lines. Fortunately, that was fixed. It was never fixed. Lettered subway cars still can't fit on the platforms for numbered cars, and numbered cars leave an unsafe gap if they stop on lettered platforms. The subway numbers and letters and where they go have changed many times over the years, but the city just built onto what was already there. The MTA accepted the system redundancy. They embraced the redundancy. The MTA made a conscious decision to go full Soviet on the New York City subway system. Why do I say they decided to go full Soviet? Because there was a chance, a window of opportunity when the system consolidation first happened, when the MTA was in its infancy. The mandate toward precision could have been written, but never was there a concerted effort to build toward precision and away from redundancy. This is America, where there's a vision and money to fund it. There's always a way. So I can only conclude that the MTA has never even envisioned a New York City subway system that operates precisely. As an example, let's take a quick look at one of MTA's favorite reroutes. ANC trains are running along the F line between J Street Metrotech and West 4th Street because reasons. Their position is that this type of built-in redundancy offers strap hangers a dependable route to their destination even when there is an obstruction in the system. My position is that even if I accepted the idea that this reroute provides similar transit times between stations, it does not because now you're clogging the FM line with ANC trains also. But if I did accept that, bypassing Fulton Street is hugely bad. If you're coming from, say, Brownsville to work in downtown Manhattan, now you have to transfer to the R train at J Street. Granted, transfers are a normal part of getting around the subway, but each transfer throws another variable for riders into the transit precision equation. So throwing one in where there wasn't one before is not rider-friendly, downright Soviet. At this point, I feel I need to talk about why the MTA chose to go full Soviet on our subway system, and it's the most diabolical, absolutely nefarious, evil reason there is. It was just easier for them. Keeping existing workarounds in place is easier and less costly than building a more precise, future-proof system. Riders, on the other hand, want precision. The more frequently and dependably trains arrive and depart a given station, the better we as individuals can budget our time each day. Not only that, unexpected reroutes can throw even the most seasoned NYC Transit rider off their game. And the poor tourists, they have enough to worry about when visiting the city. On-the-fly reroutes make their poor little heads explode. Just imagine if workarounds were designed into a route without going off route entirely. Then the burden of the rider would be limited, but that would require an increased burden upon the transit operator to, do it! But the window of opportunity for actual improvements to the subway has closed. Shuttered and sealed off like so many old station entrances. I mean, just the first phase of the 2nd Avenue subway extension cost $2.7 billion per mile to construct. And the second phase is estimated at $3.8 billion per mile. The most expensive in the world and fiscally unsustainable. Look, I'm not saying it was ever a simple task, and good advances have been made. Fulton Center, for example, was a huge station project that opened November 10th, 2014. It links a ton of former IRT, IND, and BMT lines that didn't used to connect underground. But it's kind of a mess because it was built on top of the accepted redundancy. And that transfer at J Street Metrotech from the A to the R train I talked about earlier is kind of a long walk because the station is comprised of 2 formerly unintegrated stations, J Street for the A, C, and F, and the Lawrence Street R stop. But I'd call these improvisations rather than improvements. They were improvising on the fully baked-in redundancy of the existing system they accepted from the start. The subway is the lifeblood of the city, but New York City Transit is basically a decades-long tug-of-war between desired redundancy, the MTA, and desired precision, its ridership, where one side has had all the power and no incentive to cut the other any slack. And that's why our amazing city can never have the transit system it truly deserves. One with modern precision that gets us where we need to go with ease and efficiency. Nope. We're stuck with one that's always stalling. Thanks for watching my rant. If you enjoyed it, please hit that like button so I know it. And subscribing to the channel helps me flex on other transit tubers. So do that too, please.